So I might be a little bit biased, but I think that Cincinnati is the top place to build a brand new custom home. And here's 5 reasons why. Hey there, this is Mike Hines from Oyler, Hines & Coldwell Banker. We are your favorite real estate firm here in Cincinnati, at least we hope we are. But we're here today really to talk to you about building homes in Cincinnati and why it's such a special spot. So we actually have 5 reasons why we think that Cincinnati is not just a great place to live, but also to build a house, because it's unique. It's unlike any other area in the Midwest and really in the country or region, depending on how you want to look at it, because there's so many different nuances. You might think that Cincinnati is a special spot because of maybe Skyline Chili or Gold Star Chili, or maybe the Reds or the Bengals or FC Cincinnati. Those are all great reasons to live here. But what's the best part about living in Cincinnati is really all the stuff that doesn't make the headlines. It's not the stuff that you're seeing articles written about it. But continually, Cincinnati tends to be towards the top 10 list of best places and most affordable places to live in the entire country. And that actually spreads into the new construction space, which is what I focus on and what our team focuses on day in and day out. So let's dive in as to why we think that Cincinnati is such a great place to build a home. First and foremost, let's talk about affordability. As you look at Cincinnati, our median price point of homes is hovering right around that $300,000 price point. Of course, new construction has quite a serious premium when it comes to that, especially in the custom home realm. But when it comes to building a house, you actually see really reasonable rates and costs to build houses. And there can be anything from a production house, maybe a volume builder like Ryan or Fisher or Dries. Those are different home builder types here in Cincinnati or companies. Or you can have a custom home like Classic Living Homes, Hensley Homes, J&K Custom Homes. Those are all custom homes. But really, when you see how far your money goes here in Cincinnati, it is downright incredible. And it's really impactful because as we see clients move in from LA, San Francisco, Chicago, anywhere that you think that actually has a higher cost of living to Cincinnati, they're amazed how far their money goes. And of course, with rates the way they're hovering around in the 6s right now, in the middle part of 2025, that means a heck of a lot because your buying power is so strong. And when we say buying power, it just means if you spent $2 million on a home here in Cincinnati, that might be a $10, $12, $15 million house that you're getting somewhere else, maybe in LA, San Francisco, wherever it is. Or let's just go with maybe something that's closer to maybe at the average price point, but just something a little lower in the 400s and 500s. You're getting a nice cost per square foot when you build those homes. Something around 3,000 to 4,000 square feet with some really nice appointments and features. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck. That tends to be around the periphery, maybe a little bit further out, maybe not downtown cores or even in the city of Montgomery and whatnot, but you still get a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to building a home here in Cincinnati as it relates to anywhere else. So we mentioned cost per square foot when it comes to building a house. Here in Cincinnati, that can range anywhere from $150 to $175 a square foot, all the way up to $400 a square foot for a really high-end custom home. When we have somebody ask us, hey, what's your average cost per square foot? Well, let's throw that number out the window because that doesn't matter, really. You can have a same house, but have it be dramatically higher cost per square foot based on what goes into it. But the beauty is, when you're actually talking about building a home in Cincinnati, even if you add the land back in, our cost per square foot as compared to areas like Nashville or Charlotte or some of those other areas is significantly less. We hear numbers quite often in the $700s, $800s, $1,000 per square foot in some of those other metros. Or here in Cincinnati, we can really hover around that $200, $250, $300 a square foot for the house. And then of course you incorporate the land cost in there and that can drive it up just a little bit. But it's so reasonable, and that's why people love Cincinnati. That's why a lot of families are moving back, empty nesters are moving back, any type of demographic out there are moving back to Cincinnati because it's such a great and reasonable cost per square foot, and really affordability of these homes is a very reasonable number, and it's a great place to live. All right, number 2, the second reason that we think Cincinnati is such a great place to build a home is land availability. Now, across the entire country and maybe even the world, we're finding that land is really scarce. It's hard to find. We're fortunate here at Oyler Hines, we actually have a whole land sourcing department, which is something that our clients use on a daily basis to help find land. And we don't want to mislead you. Finding land and finding opportunities is hard, especially in certain areas. However, we're starting to see more and more opportunities pop up. And let's really break this up into 2 different types of categories when it comes to building here in Cincinnati. Maybe even 3 if we wanted to change it up a little bit and that kind of stuff. The first, start with the highest end. custom homes. Oftentimes you're looking at very specific neighborhoods, like you're looking at Long Cove or Kensington, certain neighborhoods that have been developed for custom homes, and they're very high end. Obviously the lands may cost $200,000 to $400,000 for one lot. Then you jump into the infill areas, Montgomery, Madeira, Indian Hill, I-71 corridor areas. Those tend to be really scarce and hard to find, but they're tearing down houses, building up new, and people can go those ways. So that's one route. It can be difficult to find those. They're not developing as many custom home neighborhoods as they once were. However, there's more coming out. So actually what we're looking at in the future, as cost is maybe getting a little bit more reasonable, the land prices aren't going through the roof like they were. They were just a hockey stick growth for a while. It's leveling out. We're understanding numbers, development cost, obviously we're settling in there, so we understand that. So that's one facet of it. The next is production homes. Again, we mentioned Ryan, Dries, Fisher, MI. Those are all big companies here locally in Cincinnati, many more. But when it comes to those builders, they're finding properties, typically on the outskirts, and they're developing those to try to build houses anywhere from $400,000 all the way up to $1 million plus, even for a production home builder. But they're finding opportunities. More and more communities are coming online. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a slow period for the past few years where not as much is being developed, but we're seeing more and more. We're hopeful that inventory is going to start to come. It's not a surplus, but there are opportunities that you're able to find. And the honorable mention, which I'll say is the third component to just land availability, different looking product. So these same builders that we just talked about are building townhomes or land condominiums, different types of products. So it might not be a typical single family, quarter acre, half acre lot like it used to be. Might be something a little tighter, smaller, because people don't want as much space anymore. So they're redefining what the average lot looks like nowadays to maybe create more efficiencies, allow a little bit more density. And as long as zoning allows it, they're creating just some really unique product that folks like yourselves might be open to, as they're not finding the opportunities they want. And that's really key too when it comes to certain areas, because infill areas like Bellevue, Kentucky, or the city of Montgomery, city of Madeira, maybe even look at Madisonville, you have to kind of redefine what the typical home looks like nowadays, because really there's only the leftover properties, right? You're tearing down or rebuilding or grabbing property that hasn't been developed. So it just looks a little bit different now. So again, number 2 is all about land availability. We have options here in Cincinnati, which is really nice. So let's take a little pause for a second, and we're gonna do a little shameless plug. If you've been researching Cincinnati and you're not quite sure whether or not it's the right fit for you, you're looking at different blogs, maybe you're ChatGPT in it, doing whatever it is to try to learn about it, we wanna offer you the videos that we've created to help make you really have a good feel for Cincinnati. Get a good feel for it, because without coming here and spending hours and hours, or without Googling for days and days, you may not know about it. So take a look at our playlist, take a look at our other videos, which you push by clicking or subscribing to our channel, so you can actually find out what living in Cincinnati and what living in certain neighborhoods is all about. We think it'll be really helpful, especially as you listen to this information as we continue with the top reasons to build a home. Number 3. Now, again, this is where I come into being biased, but one of the greatest features about building a house in Cincinnati is we have an unbelievable network of builders here locally. We have some of the best builders. I would just, hands down, I've gotten to travel a lot of places to look at new construction elsewhere. We just have a great contingent of builders here locally. And we're lucky enough to know quite a few of these folks that on a day-to-day basis as friends. Heck, just walk in the office, I've talked to Bernie Curlman of Classic Living and Tim Hensley of Hensley Homes, 2 of the most notable builders that have been around for decades. We talk to those guys on a daily basis, and they're still in the business, still hustling and working hard for clients just like yourselves that are out there. But we have the widest range of builder types here in Cincinnati. And I know that's probably not unique to other areas, but I can say, since we know these folks firsthand, there are plenty of great options and good options. Good quality builders that have been around for a long time, and new builders coming into the field that are learning. They're taking maybe just some of their skills and their assets from other industries and coming into the business. So here at Oyler Hines, we're lucky enough to represent 10 or 12 different builders, but we work with 30 or 40 on a given year at any given basis, because we know there's so many good varieties. And it's kind of like flavors, right? There's no one flavor for everybody, right? Everybody's got what's important to them. Everybody knows the different types of house they want to build, and each builder has their own competitive advantages. So you get to lean on them. You don't have to just go with somebody because you're like, well, that's the only option I have over here. Now, I say that, of course, certain communities in certain areas, you're focused on a certain builder or 2 or 3 or 4. But when it comes to options, if you were to find a piece of land, you have great builders. If you want, you can go to our website, oylerhines.com, and you can actually look at our builder site, our builder page on there, and actually dive into some of the builders that we represent. Or if you're saying, hey, you know what, I got this property that I'm looking at, who would be a great builder? Shoot us an email. We'll have our contact information below, because there's so many good builders. And even though we represent quite a few, there's a lot that are out there, so you can't go wrong. Just do your research. Watch videos like this, chat GPT it, just like we said. Just make sure you do your research on reviews and all that kind of good stuff. Let's use a couple examples on the kind of person that you want. We just had a client meeting this week, actually, with a client that's gonna build a really cool home down in Urban Corridor. And they interviewed a builder, and it was funny because they didn't know what questions to ask. And, you know, fortunately we were able to kind of guide them through the process. But we met with a builder, and I won't say any names, but he's been building for 40 years. He's a very rich German heritage. So if you know Germans, obviously in Cincinnati, that's a huge aspect of living in Cincinnati is the German heritage, especially over the Rhine. But you look at his process. He is so diligent, he is so focused, and he is so organized. That fit this client absolutely perfect, because they want to know what to expect. They want somebody to live up to that expectation, and they want to just have almost a militant plan for what's going to happen. Some builders are a little bit more loose. Oftentimes they can be a little more creative. That wouldn't have been the right fit for them, but they found this builder. Another example is clients that wanted to build recently, just a couple months ago, a super modern home. I mean, as modern as it possibly gets out there. Well, the builder that's regimented may be a little less creative when it comes to building those modern homes. So you have to bring in other people, other components, other architects on that kind of front. So we were actually able to tee them up with another builder where their focus is only modern homes. That's all they do. And again, in Cincinnati, there's not 1,000 of them. Maybe there's 2 or 3 or 4 that actually have a focus on there, not just do 1 or 2 a year. So know who you are. And the good news is you're gonna have an option for that most likely. But just wanted to share a story or two because I think it helps just compound and understand the situation as far as what you're looking for as a builder. Number 4, community design. What we love about Cincinnati is it's not cookie cutter, especially in the markets that we serve. Every development has a little bit different of a look and a feel and an environment. And that's what's so cool about living in Cincinnati. So I'm gonna use a couple examples that we have currently that we're working on. We're lucky enough to represent Classic Living Homes in Foundry Park, which is an urban development. Actually, a little quick shout out for Homerama coming up. It's at Homerama is the local Cincinnati home show. It's huge. It's one of the biggest events of the year. And the Foundry is gonna be the epicenter of that this year. So Foundry is actually gonna be more row style homes. So 4 stories, rooftop decks up top, 2-car rear entry garages, but it's more of a tight master plan community. It's not huge, you know, it's gonna be 50, 60, 70 lots, but when you look at it, you drive by, it's all about quality of life and the way of life in there, because you're just minutes from downtown Oakley where you can walk. You don't have a lot of yard space, or really any yard space other than the pocket parks, but it's all about entertaining, fun, knowing your neighbors, having a great little environment right there and being able to be walkable to these areas. Then we'll do a polar opposite and we'll use a community like the Acres by Mike Williams of High Point. That is large lots out in the Lebanon-ish area. Large lots, 1, 2, 3, 4 acre lots that are out there. Still a neighborhood, still a network of streets in a neighborhood that you get to feel like a community, but lots of elbow room, lots of yard space, dramatically different. What's cool though, some of the same builders can build in those same areas, but you have different options. Of course, we have townhomes, we have condominiums, we have production builders. But when it comes to community design, Cincinnati, we've been forced because it was developed so long ago and it was built out so long ago, starting off in the late 1700s, early 1800s. A lot of Cincinnati has been built and developed, and there's already existing, you know, neighborhoods and communities. So you have to get creative with these types of homes, and people want new. So when they're designing new communities, they're thinking through, okay, hey, who is my ideal client that's gonna probably live here? Let's design a product around them. Back in the day, if you remember after World War II and they started building all of these homes, a lot of them looked very similar, right? Cape Cods that were going, if you go down to the city of Madeira, that's what you're gonna see quite a bit of, because it was that influx of people buying new homes. They all looked very similar. Nothing wrong with that, just different. Nowadays, you're not building the same product over and over again, with the exception of some neighborhoods, of course. You're building a variety of communities. And that's what's fun about an area like, let's just take a neighborhood like the Mosaic, which is over in Mason. A couple of different types of products. There's some retail, some mixed use space. Then there's some kind of empty nester, smaller houses. There's just a mixture of different product types, whether it's retail, homes, anything along those lines in there. But you mix it all together and it creates just a vibrance and kind of an epicenter for where you want to live. So community feel in Cincinnati, I think we're really fortunate enough to be able to develop those, and you have different options. Of course, based on what you're looking for, might drive you to certain areas. But we're really fortunate here, and one of our favorite features about Cincinnati is that community design. All right, last but not least, number 5, growth potential. Well, this is huge in Cincinnati. We've seen a hockey stick of growth like a lot of areas have over the course of the past, 5-6 years, especially since COVID and really since the downturn in 2008 and 2009. But when it comes to growth potential, Cincinnati tends to not have those crazy highs and crazy lows. We're always impacted by the economy, so I don't want to make you think that we're insulated here completely. However, if you look at communities or cities like Austin, San Francisco, if you go out west into some of those areas as well, you start seeing these just gigantic increases of valuations, obviously. Then when the market starts to slow down, you see a big, huge drop off as well. We've been more steady in Cincinnati. So we see steady growth, which in my mind, if I'm looking at the stock market and I'm wanting to follow up, I'm okay with my, hopefully, all my stocks rising up at a nice little balanced increase. Of course, we have drop-offs and whatnot. But when you rise high, you can fall hard, right? So here in Cincinnati, we see that less and less and less, especially in the key thriving markets. When you look at a lot of these really high-valued, high-interest markets, you're seeing quite a few areas that tend to maintain their valuation. You might see some dips and ebbs and flows and all that kind of stuff, but for the most part, we're holding very, very strong. And then also you look at growth potential as far as where are you going? Well, we're seeing, again, 275 wraps around. It hugs the city of Cincinnati right there, pretty much in the middle, right? We're starting to see it grow out and out, further and further, getting closer out to Dayton, into Springboro and whatnot, and of course out east and out west as well. But we're seeing the growth of the population here in Cincinnati. Lots of people are coming in, so we're seeing quite a bit of interest as far as that goes, and we're seeing new communities pop out. So our bubble keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I'll say my favorite part about that is it seems to be very calculated. Calculated is the wrong word because I don't think there's anybody that's back there is kind of twiddling their fingers and trying to really calculate and try to make this happen. However, it is very, very modest, and it's happening the right way. So when you look at growth, think of a company that can grow really fast, tends to have a lot of growing pains, lots of issues, that sort of thing. Kind of like Cincinnati. Cincinnati's just been growing at a very steady pace over the years. We've had some tough years, of course. We're growing at a pace that's very sustainable. And honestly, Cincinnati, that's really important. And some of the reasons for that is, we have great companies that have really established themselves here in Cincinnati. Kroger, Procter & Gamble, other ones that continue to come into Cincinnati and really the region. That helps to keep us at a really well-balanced and sustainable market to continue to grow. People are asking to come back to Cincinnati, which is huge, so that grows our market even more. And they're actually anticipating that we're gonna see a 5 to 7% continued year-over-year growth. Maybe 3% this year, up 5 or 7% the next year. You never know, but it's sustainable growth that's happening at a modest pace. So when you invest in a home, it should be headed in the right trajectory. Of course, market can do what the market can do. However, Cincinnati, compared to other areas, our growth potential is very strong, and we're seeing no signs other than positive signs as far as where that growth is headed. The last point I want to make on growth is Cincinnati and the regions and the municipalities around Cincinnati are really investing in all the right things, right? You have different trails, the Wasson Way Trail that comes up, obviously the Little Miami Bike Trail. You have new developments that are happening in downtown and in Factory 52 in Norwood and out in Liberty Township. You have so many great new developments that are happening, and they're investing in the right features to keep people here, to keep people loving it. So whether it's outdoor activities, whether it's new development and just retail that people can enjoy, new places to go to, new restaurants, all the investment is happening. It's very vibrant here in Cincinnati. And until you get here to get to actually enjoy that, you may not know it. But give us a call, we'll tell you where to go, because there's so much great stuff. All right, so those are our top 5 reasons we think that Cincinnati is such a great place to build a custom home. We could go on for hours and hours, and I'm long-winded sometimes, so I'll stop there. But if you want more information, maybe on some builders, we actually just recently launched a new video podcast called Breaking Ground, where we interview the top builders in Cincinnati. You get to sit down with them for 30 to 45 minutes, hear all about their business, hear all about the good stuff they have going on and their clients they're working with. The only bad part is you have to listen to me because I'm part of it interviewing them. So I'm sorry about that. But you do get to have some fun listening to them, because oftentimes, unless you set up a meeting with those builders, you're not going to hear their story. And even in an hour, you're probably not going to hear enough of their story to understand what's important to them. So before you actually get to sit down with a builder, it's great content to listen to, in my opinion, of course. But that's really, we're excited about launching those. We're releasing them on a month-to-month basis with different builders. And of course, if you want something more fun, something more just about Cincinnati, check out our top things to do as a local living in Cincinnati. We have different videos. We'll link them all down below. Take a look. We really encourage you to like and subscribe our videos so we can make more. We hope it's working. We hope that you love it. We hope that really this information can help serve you as you look and build a house, whether it's through us, through another builder, another agent. This is really just to arm you so you feel good about the decisions you're making. So thank you, as always, for taking the time to spend with myself. Our team's lucky enough to help over 3,000 buyers and sellers over the course of the past several years. We sold over $1 billion of real estate, but all of it doesn't mean much if you're not happy and you're not finding what you need. So if ever we can be of help, please reach out to us any given day. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.